There was a comment the other day that said, with semi-automatics, I don't understand why anybody would buy a pump action. I have two American classics here with me today, a Winchester 120 Ranger and a Remington 1187 Sporting Clays. Neither are cutting edge tech, but it doesn't really matter for the purpose of today's video because we're talking about the genuine basics of each. You have two types of semi-automatic, generally speaking, inertia-powered and gas-powered. Gas-powered use the gas that's made from the combustion of a shell to drive a piston down and cycle the next. An inertia gun uses the recoil of the shell to cycle in the next shell. There's virtues and positives and negatives of both, but we've done videos on that, go and check them out. A pump action requires manual pumping. Instead of any gas or inertia pumping and cycling the next shell in, you have to use good old power, left hand, pumping, or right-handed if you're left-handed. Obviously, it makes more sense, logically speaking, to have the gun do it for you and go clack, clack, clack. But that is not always of huge benefit. So let's start with a pump action and talk about why a pump action is good. A pump action is a significantly simpler machine. Mechanically, there are less parts than a semi-automatic, and that can be good. Generally speaking, more parts, more places for it to become faulty. A semi-automatic may sometimes jam, can be cartridge fussy, modern ones are significantly less so, but with a pump action, the only thing that's going to stop it cycling, other than some mechanical fault or particularly bad shell choice, is you. Because you are doing all of the work. What this lends itself to is the ability to use a variety of shells in this gun without ever worrying about malfunction. Meaning if you want to put half-ounce loads, three-quarter-ounce loads, or silly big ones in there, it's gonna take everything you want. Second benefit is if you have a second shell loaded in the bottom of a different variety. For example, let's say you're out pigeon shooting and something bigger comes out, a fox or something like that, you can eject your 7-shot ounce and an eighth, and you've got something big and lumpy in there. Perhaps that's a bit of a niche thing, but the ability just to empty a shell out the chamber very quickly using your left hand in the position it was already in and then stick another one in or not is good. Certainly when it comes to sporting clays, and sometimes when you've got birds with a pair of birds, the ability to go bang bang is really nice. With a bit of technique and skill, you can try and keep that barrel as linear as possible. And you look at a lot of these practical shotgun guys and 3-gun guys, and they are unbelievable at actually getting the target to stay exactly where they want, or the barrel to stay exactly where they want. But by the nature of sporting clays or bird hunting, there is a lot of movement of the muzzle. And so when you pump the gun and you pull the slide back, the muzzle will pull off to the right, and you push it forward, the muzzle will pull over to the left. I think even the most skilled person will end up with a bit of that. That doesn't lend itself potentially to the best second shot. A lot of that will boil down, as I said, to experience. Taking one of these out and shooting a lot will get you very good at pumping that thing back and forth in a straight line, and also doing it very quickly. Inherently, the argument against pump actions is it's slower. Semi-automatics nowadays, the modern ones, really are emptying as fast as you can pull the trigger. It's an insanely good system. Most of them come out of the box ridiculously fast. This is only ever going to be as fast as you with the slide. But you go and watch some of the old boys in America on YouTube shooting skeet with these, it is unbelievably impressive. Same as in the practical shotgun world, the speed with which they can feed and cycle one of these is great. I guess from a mental perspective, it is adding another process in. That could be viewed as a negative, but could it also be viewed as a positive? Like a lot of shooters who prefer a cartridge with more recoil because it bumps them into the second shot. There could be something there, a mental break between shots actually proving some kind of positive, rather than, let's say, you're, how many times have you been stood under driven pheasants or whatever, and a bird comes out and you miss, and then you just whack a second shot at it for no purpose without checking your mount, thinking about what you did on the first. There's always a little bit of a mental break between shots, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Cost is also a huge factor. Pump actions are cheaper. Pound for pound, model to model, pump actions are cheaper. Again, less parts to go wrong, less engineering involved. They're just cheaper to produce and ergo cheaper to buy, and that can allow you to access a better quality gun for less money. Semi-automatics, on the other hand, in the cheap spectrum are less good. Because of the complexities of design, either in a gas or inertia auto, these things actually have to be made to a slightly higher standard. On the face of it, the positives of a semi-automatic are obvious. 3 shots as fast as you can pull the trigger. And that definitely puts it as a benefit over a pump action. Negatives come when you're looking at lower quality guns, for sure. Lower quality semi-automatics, certainly some older designs and some imported designs, will be more cartridge fussy. Meaning, unlike the pump, where you can take any old shell, however old, as long as it's safe, whatever weight, put it in there up to the maximum legal capacity or load capacity of the chamber and barrel, and fire it. This you might have to put a little bit more forethought in. This gun I was out filming with this morning and I had 3 jams. That's not so good, right? That's not so good. What that indicates is this gun really needs a clean. So servicing and maintenance on a semi-automatic is higher than on a pump action. You still need to clean a pump, but I've owned this for years and I've cleaned the barrel. I've never had to do anything to the mechanism, the old little spray of oil, but usually that goes in with cleaning. And that really does appeal, right? Modern gas and inertial autos need a lot less cleaning, so that argument is sort of moot, but even then, you still need to clean it every couple of thousand shells, so cleaning is mandatory. That gun there, you could probably shoot 100,000 shells through, and it may be a bit rattly and worn at that point, but it's still working without any issue. That translates into use to a certain extent as well, right? If you drop a pump action into the muck when you're out duck hunting, wildfowling, anything, the muck isn't going to impede its operation. Most companies have spent a lot of money and time designing guns that you can field strip quickly, or at least are completely sealed so that you're never going to suffer from those issues, which is kind of cool when you think about it. I appreciate an auto's an auto's an auto, but we have come a long way. A pump action, I don't think we've seen much change in design for 100 years, more or less. From a weight perspective, a pump action is generally lighter, a semi-automatic is generally heavier. That said, there are some of the inertia autos out there that are actually a lot lighter than pumps, which is kind of cool in its own self, a lot lighter, probably half an ounce, but they are the same weight. So that isn't such an argument, but it does depend model on model. Generally speaking, mass generalizations are my favorite. Pump actions are lighter than semi-automatics. What that does give you, of course, is an increase in recoil, not only because these things are using some of the gas or some of the inertia, so it soaks up a bit of the recoil, but the extra weight does make it a bit nicer on the shoulder and face. More importantly, the extra weight between your hands that you get with a gas system, or not a gas system, really, an inertia system doesn't add too much weight at all, if any, will lend it to be a slightly nicer shooting gun. Obviously, a little bit of weight when it comes to things like sporting clays allows you to move the gun more smoothly, and that is true for hunting as well. Obviously, the downsides there is you've got to carry the damn thing. It's less of a thing in England, but nostalgic value of a pump action is definitely high. You look over in America, a lot of people's grandfathers would be using things like Ithacas, and that is obviously the sort of thing you like to continue. It's cool to use what your forefathers used. Well, you might use a hand drill or buy an old car. It's allowing you to experience a bit of what their life might be like, and so these things over in America are still used for hunting quite prevalently. In the UK, not so much. Obviously, our bird hunting culture is completely different. That said, the pump action has one thing that the semi-automatic does not, and that is something really, really simple. It's this. You get to pump it. And I know that that's a really childish reason to own one of these, or 2 or 3 of these, as you may do. That's enough. Guys, I'd love to know your thoughts. Are pump actions just a bit old? Are they just something that exists for nostalgia and price point? Should we all be moving to semi-automatics rather than pumped if you're going for a 3-shot gun or multi-shot gun? I'd love to know your thoughts. Take care, guys. Goodbye. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching, guys. This channel is made possible by our amazing sponsors. You can find out more about them in the description down below. And if you want to support the channel, you can join as a member. You get loads of extra content, well, some extra content, and occasionally we hook up and go clay shooting together as a membership group. If you don't feel like joining today, we really appreciate you watching and subscribing. Have a wonderful day.
Let's say the things that we both know. Gonna take these words and make